10 miles, 20,000 steps, and still not hard enough. It was definitely hard enough for me and for a day, but it wasn't hard enough to call a Misogi. What's a Misogi? I'll go over that and share some thoughts from this very long walk. Most recently, I saw Shaan Puri share a video playing piano at Jesse Itzler's house because his Misogi for last year was learning to play the piano. He was going to beginner classes amongst the children and learning, and then it all kind of culminated in him performing at Jesse Itzler's house while visiting there to talk about entrepreneurship and to do an interview. But Misogi has come to mean this one challenge for the year. Jesse Itzler suggests your Misogi be something you can build the year around, and it can be a thing you look back on when you're 80, and you can say, 2023 was the year I did this, 2024 was the year I did this, and so on and so on. So 2026 will be the year that I do something, but I'm still trying to figure that out. The origins of Misogi, like how Ikigai is often thought of as this Venn diagram, Misogi is a Japanese word that's drifted a little bit from the original meaning. This modern self-development version was coined by Dr. Marcus Elliott and his friend Garth. It's a nod to the Japanese cleansing ritual. This is in a profile of Garth in The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. And it has this origin story of the modern version of this term. He writes, Garth was an Olympic-level judo competitor. And as we were hiking, he told me about this thing that his judo dojo borrowed from the samurai, who borrowed it from Aikido, who borrowed it from these ancient Japanese religious texts. And it was called a Misogi challenge. Elliott says he started calling his physical challenges Misogi as a tip of the hat to Garth, and then the purifying nature of doing something really hard. Elliott and the Misogi had a bit of viral popularity a decade ago. It was that year in the NBA when it seemed like Kyle Korver couldn't miss. I remember seeing like this photo of Kyle Korver training by walking with a very large rock underwater. And that was part of one of the Misogis that he did when training with Elliott. Another Korver Misogi was paddleboarding in 1 to 2 foot waves for 25 miles. This was not alone, it was with other people, but it took 9 hours. And there's an article on this on Grantland, one of my favorite websites from before. And Kyle Korver says, my bones felt hungover for like 2 weeks. Training camp started and I thought I was in bad shape, but I recovered and I think I've become more serious about my shot, my mechanics, my revolutions, the stroke. That's the end of the quote, and that gets me to this idea of why 10 miles didn't feel hard enough. Elliott also has some straightforward guidance that it should be that hard, but also don't die. So if you fail, the cost of failure shouldn't be death, so you don't want to make it that hard. I was nowhere near that either. But yeah, I think a popular version that people are already doing is a marathon. Though most aren't thinking of the word Misogi for it. They train for it for most of the year, and you can like center your year around it because you're going to be sometimes like traveling for the marathon. And there is a chance of failure. Some of the hardcore might not think a marathon is hard enough. And you probably do have more of a 50% chance of success. But then I think that's where having a goal for the marathon makes it more of a Misogi. Like you're going to aim for, of course, like a sub 3 for a lot of people is what they want. But just aiming for setting like a PR for the marathon, oftentimes that has probably closer to like a 50% chance of success. As for my walk, it took 5 hours, a 5-hour walk with a coffee break and also a lunch break. Sounds like a vacation in comparison to even a marathon, but especially compared to a 50-hour hike with an 80-pound pack. Why did I do this? So my mini-Misogi, AKA making up for a bad day. I had a few days off. On one of them, I mostly stayed inside on the computer. By the end of the day, I was kicking myself because I knew it wasn't the best use of time. I was trying to make videos, but then it would just be like being on YouTube, whatever it was. Like, and I've heard this described as gray zone time. So it's not really working, not really being productive, but also not really relaxing. In a way, like for that day, I kind of like, I might have felt better just binging on shows and like, I don't know that that's the best way to relax either, but at least that would be like not so much in this pretending I'm being productive, but not really. And one way to really force myself out of the gray zone, I figured would be to be outdoors. So that's what I set out to do the next day. Just try to spend a lot of time outdoors. And that gets to this next section, why 10 miles and 20,000 steps? I actually didn't realize it was 20,000 steps until afterward, but that was a nice round number. I did kind of know that it would be 10 miles. It was actually like 9.5, and then I added a little bit more after just to make sure to hit the 10 miles. So on one of my regular walks, I'll look down that hill and then see the cliff, which I know is at the end of a second regular walk that I do. And then there's this third regular walk that I do that is kind of in the middle of that. And looking at it on like Apple Maps, I knew that I could connect them all together, and then just the raw time, if I did that straight, it would be hour and a half. I figured hour and a half, a little more than that back, because then it's uphill. So I could be done with this in 3 hours if I rushed it, but yeah, more like 4 hours, and it actually like took more like 5 hours. And I thought it'd be a good day to do it. So I was gonna set out to do it like first thing in the morning. Then I got stuck in the house again for an hour with like prepping for it, which I wish I could say it was just like prepping hydration and snacks or something like that. But I was looking up book quotes and things like that, printing them out on index cards because I kind of knew I wanted to make a video about this. And yeah, so I printed out these note cards, which I actually liked because it allowed me to kind of like, at least I wasn't like pulling my phone out looking for like book highlights. I just had these to focus on, and they were around the theme of walks and doing hard things. And I thought I would compile that into a video. But maybe the most important single card was the quote that I had from 4,000 Weeks, where Oliver Burkeman writes, "It becomes difficult not to value each moment primarily according to its usefulness for some future goal, or for some future oasis of relaxation you hope to reach once your tasks are finally out of the way." That's the end of the quote. I definitely fell into this trap where I was thinking of when I could record during this walk and talk about these quotes that I brought. I set up a camera and that fell. Luckily, I only cracked the screen protector, but not the entire screen on the Osmo Pocket. I set up here and one of the cards flew away. I also got lunch because I started to feel a little bit of pain. I would say pain, it wasn't like soreness, and figured a break before heading uphill would be a good idea. At that point, though, I had kind of like recorded my thoughts on these different cards, so I put those away. And on the way back uphill, I think I enjoyed the walk a bit more, mainly because I stopped filming much at all. I stopped thinking about the note cards, and most importantly, I stopped thinking about if people on the internet would think it was hard enough. So that was a mini-Misogi. It wasn't like difficult enough to center the year around, but I think it'll be definitely like something that made the last week memorable. And then it definitely, I would say, yeah, it was like, it will be the hard thing for the month. So maybe a mini-Misogi can be one of these things that is challenging for the month, but not necessarily something to center the year around, which gets me to the end here where what will my actual Misogi be for the year? I could redo the walk with a 20-pound ruck and then wonder the entire time if people will say I should have a 50-pound ruck to make it more challenging. Some of my cousins are doing a high rocks. I do like Shaan Puri's version of learning something challenging for the year. I've always wanted to get a kettlebell certification, so that would be a good combo of learning and a single-day physical challenge. But I don't know yet, and as I figure this out, I'll share it here. So like, subscribe, etc., and thanks for checking this out.